Welcome to the Barker Podcast Collection.
I suck, you suck, I suck at Call of Duty. You suck.
Welcome to the Not Playing Podcast. My name's Rob Howard, and this week I'm joined by
Patrick Kay
and Adam Scott. Hello.
You can contact us on email at notplayingpodcast@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter at notplayingpod. Pat, you've got your Vive now. How long have you had it now?
About a month now. So I've had a lot of time to test stuff out. I've bought about 30 games. It's ridiculous. It's taken up. I worked out the other day, it's over like 15% of all of my Steam libraries now, like new Steam VR games, and
which is remarkable for a launch lineup that there's so much software out there.
There's something like it's over 200 now. There's something around 200 titles now. A lot of them are like very like early access. Like some of the games I've been playing have literally been in development for about 8 weeks. I'll talk about those later, but there's a lot of stuff out there. A lot of it's free as well. A lot of kind of like cool demos and stuff of games which are going to have like commercial launches in a few months' time. Without talking specifically about the games, all I can really say is it's amazing. It's kind of like as big a jump a leap from like DK1 as DK1 was from not having DK1, if that makes sense. It's that much a kind of whoa, that's new, that's where this is going now. And the reason is obviously because of the input. The difference, I'd already tried it, so I'd already had a kind of idea of like how that was going to work and everything, but like through using it for like a amount of time, you realize there's something like it's basically it's a real kind of evolutionary leap, just having no longer this abstract control of a third or first person character, and to actually be that character by you're looking down, you see your hands where they are, you move through the space as you would in the real world, and that feedback you get it's completely natural. The difference that is making is so big. It really is like I've tried VR for the first time. That's what it feels like, if that makes sense.
I get it. I mean, I've full disclosure, I came around the other night and had a go. Somewhat inebriated, but I still felt like, to an extent, that I almost felt like I was inhibited by my own form, my own physical constraints. So, I mean, I enjoyed it a lot, but it's fucking knackering after a while.
Actually, although to be fair, after a while it isn't, because I have totally found that. Like I've been playing really, really kind of physically engaging games for over 4 weeks now, and the first few nights, this is the crazy thing. The first few nights I was exhausted when I finished. I'd play for like 3 hours or so, and I'd just finish. And I'd just go to the fridge and just eat a bunch of food because I just burn off a load of calories. And very quickly, my diet actually kind of adapted to that. I've started eating more food during the day because I'm going home and playing this thing for like 3 hours at night, and I literally have to have more calories there, otherwise I just get knackered. But now, 4 weeks in, or 4 or 5 weeks in, I just don't feel like that anymore. I'm just bouncing around the living room playing these games, and I've got a hoodie on. I was playing Hover Junkers just now with a hoodie on and no fan on. Like, that's the difference. Like, when I first started playing it was t-shirt off, and I put the fan on before I even loaded the game up. So, like, that's the difference. It really,
for the benefit,
you do get used to it,
of the listeners, Pat now looks like Daredevil.
Yeah, I have
All rippling
evolved.
muscles, and that's all thanks to VR. Thanks, Gabe. You can make all those fat gamers fit.
I legitimately think that it is going to affect the fitness of gamers, because
You should get you should get that treadmill thing. What's that treadmill
that
thing?
as well. The Omni, there's the Omni and the Cyberith, the Virtuix Cyberith. Like, I just think, especially as like more and more kind of different experiences come out, I think eventually you're just going to get a point where I don't think you're going to get a situation where a gamer who, it has just this traditional kind of gaming, couch, eating bad food and just playing with a joypad is going to see like their perfect experience and just let it pass them by. If you're not the kind of person that wants to go to a gym, I'm not the sort of person that really does gyms or anything. I walk a lot. That's pretty much my only exercise. But I would find it hard to incentivize myself to do that. And there's lots of people who are like that. But I think if you give someone this kind of experience that they can like throw themselves into, that is like, it already happened to me. That's already like my evenings now. That is exactly what's going on. But I think there's going to become a point where someone, I think even if you're like not up for exercise at all, if you suddenly say, you can be a Jedi, you can wield a lightsaber, you can duck blaster bolts. There's going to be plenty of kids who don't want to do exercise, but are suddenly like, oh, holy shit, I've always wanted to do that. That's the thing I want to do. And they're not going to, I don't think they're going to go, oh, but what a shame, I only like playing games on the controllers. I think there's going to be a point where it just goes, oh no, I have to play that. Like,
I think it's a really interesting point because I'm a bit older than you, Pat. I felt like I need to go to the gym, otherwise I'm going to start crumbling. So I've been going to the gym of late, and to be honest, it was alright when I first started, but I don't really enjoy it. And I'm on the machines. The only thing that keeps me going is the fact that I can prop my phone up there and I can watch stuff on Netflix or Amazon or download it or something. I think
also
VR gyms would be an amazing idea, because if I could put a headset on and do those machines on there, I would be so friggin' fit. I would actually like, instead of just being on the cross trainer, I would like to actually be skiing down the mountain or something.
Or when you're lifting,
running from zombies, properly running from zombies.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could just make stuff more fun. But like, I just think there's going to be a point where you're going to get gamers off the couch. Like you're going to get a peak. You're going to get this kind of peak where there's just enough different experiences where everyone's just like, yeah, I would try that. And that's when you get. That's probably the climate where the killer app comes out. The one that everyone goes, oh yeah, and everyone wants to play that one. That's when you've got golf, and you've got football games, and you've got darts, and you've got racing, and you've got skiing, and like the equivalent of Wii Sports, and you've got sword fighting and everything. Like once every kind of niche one's out there, someone will go, and the one that everyone's going to want to play is this, and someone will make the Angry Birds or the Tetris
or the Rocket League.
Or the Rocket League,
VR.
whatever that thing is. It's
no, I think it will definitely help assist with the stigma of video games, and particularly VR, that some people might be looking at as perhaps a bit of a Billy No Mate sort of thing, where it's not very sociable, or I guess that's kind of another feather in its caps.
Yeah,
perhaps.
On that subject, a mate of mine just got a Vive, and it's funny you said that, Bobby, because he said exactly the same thing. When he first got it, he thought, this is going to be a very solitary experience, because I'm going to put it on and I'm going to be experiencing it. But this weekend, his mate came over. His wife was away. And his mate came over, and the pair of them had such a blast. One of them wearing the Vive, and the other one watching him wear the Vive, and do all that stuff. And I think that's the thing. If you've got the monitor on the screen, and people who haven't got the HMD on can see what you're seeing, although not getting the full effect, then at least they're feeling like they're engaging with the same thing you're engaging with, and they said they were laughing like drains, watching it all.
There's a massive element of physical performance to it. I noticed when I was watching Pat, I was like, dude, I remember you used to do martial arts, didn't you? Because I felt clumsy as fuck doing it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to the gym, I work out, but I'm not especially agile. But I could totally tell, like, years of Pat doing Wing Chun or whatever it is. I could sort of just, the way you were spinning around on a dime and stuff in that bow and arrow game, I was like, maybe it's just practice or something. I don't know.
To be fair, yeah, it's largely just practice. When I first started playing that game, I was just getting hit and killed like in the first round and stuff. But it's just like any other game, but you're using your body, and like there's something like really empowering about that, because it's actually your engagement, it's your presence in the environment that's doing it. Like, so when you shoot someone with a gun, you're not just aiming up a crosshair and pressing the button at the exact right time. You are actually physically aiming in the correct place and pulling the trigger at the right time. And that is just it's like a real Boolean thing. It's a real like, oh, that's what it is next. That's how you do it now. That's how that engagement should be, if that makes sense.
Is there like aim assist then?
No, it's impossible now.
I'm glad to hear that. I was gonna call you a casual otherwise.
But no, it's so weird that, and I think that I'm not really into sort of like violent games or games that are like empowering, but with this I sort of am, because it feels sort of honestly so.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, like
you're doing it, not the huge space marine in the armour.
Exactly, because your hands have made the arrow hit the target. You're like, yes. That is the difference, and it's a new thing. It's a branch in the evolutionary tree of gaming, essentially, and it's it's mental. Without actually talking about specific games, which I'm going to do later, it's hard to explain exactly why, but it is amazing, and really the social side of it is something I'll definitely talk more about later. But that is something which I didn't entirely anticipate, but it's huge. The way you interact with other players in multiplayer has a new slant to it, and it's because of the nature of body language, and it changes everything. But yeah, I'll talk about that later. But it's awesome. It's an absolutely wondrous tool to play with.
Well, I mean, I'm happy to talk about some of the whatever games you've been enjoying the most or whatever right now, if you want.
Sure.
Unless you've got anything else you wanted to.
No, I mean, the best way of it explaining it is through the game. So, like, first of all, picked up a couple of like real kind of casual titles. Space Pirate Trainer, which you've played yourself as well, Rob, which is just a real. Yep. It's basically Galaga in VR. It's waves of droids, spherical flying droids which fly in front of you, and you take them out with these little blaster pistols. And that sounds like just such a simple thing in a kind of meat space environment, but the action of actually holding the guns and having a space that you can roll around in and duck like waves of lasers in slow motion it's so much fun.
I'd like to add that for me personally, the more simple the interaction is, the more immersed in it I was. Yeah. And this might just be because, I was I didn't get to spend all that much time with it, but as soon as there was a game where I had to bring up a holographic display and start selecting things in a more traditional way, I just found that was like burdensome, and I just wanted to directly engage with it. Yeah. Using what I had, my appendages. Yeah. and that's why I enjoyed like Hollow Point, because even though it took a little while for me to get used to not notching the arrow, pulling it from behind my head and then letting it go. At first, it felt like, oh, do I have to get this precisely on the nook?
Yeah.
And then after a while, you're just doing it like you're fucking Legolas. It's fucking awesome.
Exactly, because
but also
you eventually just give up and go, oh, it's just like getting an arrow from your back and putting it in. You just just you just do it. You just act it out.
It's instinctual.
And that is I think that's where you're going to get grannies getting it. That's where you're going to get people who don't get it. No,
if they're in good fitness.
No, you say well, mate, but like that's what happened with the Wii. That's exactly what happened with the Wii. When you make a method of input which has less kind of abstraction and more kind of natural, like just fluid interface, like it suddenly opens the playing field to people to play games. iPhone did exactly the same thing with touchscreen. It's the same thing. This is the best one we've got to date. It's literally the tools to map your hands into the world, and it's so they're so good. There's so many cool things you can do with them. But yeah, like it's that was a great game as well. The Hollow Point. It's just it's real simple. You can tell it was made really quickly, but it's just engaging all the way through. You've just got these targets you've got to hit. They all fire a projectile back, and you've got to duck out of the way. And eventually the waves get more and more intense, and eventually you'll get these holographic ninjas that will come in there as well, and some of them will throw sort of ninja stars. You've got to duck, and there's a boss fight, and it gets...
I never got anywhere near that far. I just saw in the screenshots, it's like, oh, it's got ninjas in. I didn't get anywhere near that.
I think
Proper Hunger Games stuff.
I think I got up to about sort of level 25 in it, which is... I think that's about 15 minutes in or something. So by the end of that,
I got to about 5, I think.
You can imagine how brutally tired you are at the end of that. But,
hell yeah!
But it's such good fun. The one I absolutely have to talk about, Budget Cats. It's hilarious. Yeah. It's got a real kind of like Valve kind of feeling to it. It's got that kind of humour and that aesthetic. And actually, the developers are currently over at Valve. They're helping them finish development on the game, which is really cool. It's apparently something that Valve do. They occasionally take in development teams. I guess that's probably part of their clever like recruitment process. I don't know, but
I saw this on one of the Vive demo things I saw on YouTube. This is the stealth one where you got to hide around corners and stuff.
Yes.
There are little robots.
Yes.
And you can do some gruesome things to them.
It's so funny.
I feel really sorry for the robots in it.
It's so funny. You're basically the idea is that you're meant to be breaking into a office to make sure that you get a job. So basically, you're meant to find your CV and stamp it with an approved. That is the job.
I didn't realise that was the plot.
That is the goal of the plot. So you're basically moving your way through this office. You pick up these little throw dart things. You have you can teleport with one hand. It has a unique teleportation system in this one where you hold your you point your teleporter to where you're going to teleport. It shows you the camera from that view, so you can basically look around and you can spin it around your head and see what the view is when you're going to be there. And then you press a button and you can actually teleport there. And you can teleport through like grates. So you can teleport under into like air ducts and stuff like that. But you actually have to crouch down. It'll tell you don't have space if you're standing up. So you have to actually crouch down and then you kind of crawl along. And you're sort of crawling along like in the ducts above the roof and stuff. And you can like knock the roofing tiles down and see the enemies below and shoot them and stuff. And walk along banisters and sort of shimmy along walls and stuff. And you encounter these robots and you pull these kind of like throwing stars out. And you literally have to just huzz them just as you would throw like a throwing star in real life. And it's quite difficult to do. But yeah, it's so satisfying when you actually get one of them. And they start jibbing out and talking and screaming in their horrible little robot voices and stuff. But it's so much fun. Absolutely just like hilarious amounts of fun. And also quite scary, but like in a way that doesn't make you nope out. And I totally think this is going to be a thing where you sort of get that kind of horror mechanic, but without the scariness, because it works so well.
Well, it's just things coming close to you can be a bit freaky.
Yes.
Like even the little demo with the little bouncing robot dog thing.
Yeah.
That, like, when it gets a bit too close, you're like, get off me.
Exactly, as you would be in the real environment, I guess. But
you know, I remember being absolutely terrified playing Thief, and there were no monsters in that. That was just about being discovered, and that's the whole thing. Isn't that's the
that got
suspense
your
factor.
heart going, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
Thief 2. Oh my god! I mean, I thought my heart was pounding. But yeah, again, it's not a horror thing, but it's a suspense thing, and it's a you get the fear factor. You don't have to just be monsters jumping out of closets to scare people.
Absolutely.
The teleporting thing, that's like an extension of. Is it fair to say that that's like a native feature of the Vive, the whole teleportation mechanic? Yeah,
it's used so commonly, you could probably say that, really. And the basic reason for that is it is one way of getting away from sickness, from motion sickness.
Yeah.
It's basically so that people who haven't tried VR before don't just use the thumb pads and get sick from strafing and stuff.
Well, and of course it allows you to maintain that one-to-one, like being able to walk around your immediate area. Yeah. But also, I will say I did get a little bit lost with it when I was trying the demo that everyone's seen with the robot from Portal.
Yeah.
That's in quite a small room, and like you're sort of asked to go over to a shelf. And you can walk most of the way there, but then the chaperone system comes round, and then you have to sort of reset it by teleporting. So there is a little bit of I liken it to getting used to mouse look for the first time.
Yeah,
well, it's basically that kind of adjustment.
It's like you eventually kind of adjust to it being about like object importance. So you wouldn't walk through an empty bit of corridor. You'd teleport past that to the interesting bit, and then you'd walk around the interesting bit. And most of them have designed the levels like in that way. But yeah, teleport does get a little bit of getting used to. But once it does feel pretty fluid. But a lot of people, myself included, would like to have more options to have like a different control scheme. Because
do you think it works better in budget cuts where you've got the preview? Is that better, or is that just like better for that game?
It's better for that game because it's necessary. I think it's a bit more necessary because of the enemies. Like in games where you don't have that, it isn't. Like in the gallery, it wouldn't be necessary because there's no like threats in that game. So yeah, it's dependent on the game really.
Segue?
Yeah, but another game I have to talk about, and this is a bit of a surprise to me. This one, because it's it's super early in development. When I played this, it had been worked on for 8 weeks by one developer, and it's an RPG. It's basically the first VR RPG. And the reason I want to talk about it is because it's very obviously it's because it's so early in its development. It's obviously quite basic in areas, and it's obviously not trying to be overly ambitious, but it's actually incredible because it shows you like how pretty much all of those games are going to deal with the game problems that an RPG has. So I'll describe the games. You start off and you've got a small kind of intro sequence which sort of teaches you the teleporting system, and it shows you a little bit of lore, and then it leads you down a little path, and it has this big glowing sort of magical teleport in front of you. And you teleport right next to it, and then you look down at it, and you walk into it, and it teleports you into a dungeon, and you're in this dungeon, and then you've got this cool kind of early days of World of Warcraft kind of cartoony style. It's very kind of soft and very bright and colourful, and it looks really nice, but it doesn't look realistic at all. It's very, very caricature and cartoony. And so you start off, and there's a tiny little, very simple, basic puzzle at the start, which basically just involves you walking back and forth, and you go through a sort of archway, and you encounter a door that's locked, and on somewhere in the room there's a little shelf, and on that shelf there's some coins, and you sort of reach your hand over and you pick up the coins. Nothing new there, and then you notice there's a key hanging up on the wall. So you reach and you just touch the key, and you've picked that up, and you look down and you've got a little satchel around your waist. So you put the key in the satchel, and then you walk over to the door, and you get the key out again because you realise you shouldn't have put it away anyway, and then you just put in the key and you turn it and the door opens, and then you walk through the door, and you're in the next room, and there's a small puzzle, and that puzzle basically it basically shows you a potion bowl, and it tells you 3 ingredients, and you have to find those 3 ingredients. Really easy, like no-brainer stuff. They're all in the same room. It doesn't take long to find them all. You pick them up, you put them in this kind of flaming potion bowl, and then the kind of altar in front of you that drops down, and it unveils the next part of the dungeon, which is you sort of click on the ladder, and you're now down inside it, and then you've got a flaming torch at this moment, so you're just kind of navigating through this dungeon. No threats or anything. It's just kind of a little bit spooky, and it's got a cool kind of atmosphere. And then all of a sudden, there's a noise. There's something over there, and it is the skeleton. There's this little cartoon skeleton comes out. You've got no weapon, so you have to peg it. So you peg it out of the only way you've got left to go, which is outside of this little crack that leads you to outside, and then you walk across this bridge, and you find these 3 swords, and you've got enough gold to buy one of those swords. So you reach out to the one that you can afford, and by touching it, it becomes your sword. That's now in your hand. You can switch hands, or you can put it away in your belt, and you could pick up another weapon if you've got another weapon. But basically, to shoot forward a little bit, you've eventually got a shield that you can hold with your left hand, a sword that you can hold in your right, or you can hold a spell wand, like that will fire projectile kind of fire bolts or lightning bolts, whatever. Or you can put those both away, and you can have a bow and arrow. Or you can put those away, and you can pull out a dwarf's axe if you've found that in the certain part of the game. But it's like the way that it does everything, I'm pretty sure is how most of them will feel to a degree. So the first kind of encounter with an enemy, you actually fight the enemy. That's the difference. There's no press button to strike. There's no thumbstick trickery that's gonna do any magic here. You have to lunge forward and stab the enemy with the sword that you're holding in your hand. Yeah, and then you jump back again because he's swung at you, and you duck out the way. So he's swinging above, and you're ducking and you're poking him in it. And it's a little bit early in development, so it's not that sophisticated how it works. It's a little bit better now. When you first did it, you could just kind of swing your sword around a bit. And now it's hard, mate. You have to actually have a certain amount of force with each swing, or it won't register. So which makes you actually do it, or actually kind of put the effort in. But actually having that engagement with every bit of combat in the game just makes it feel so much more like meaningful. And it's the same thing with the archery and the shooting and everything else. It makes you feel like a hero. It makes you feel like the exact thing that game is designed to make you feel like. Sorry.
No, I've got a couple. This area is quite, of interest to me, the old RPG area. But there's a couple of things about this. I mean, when you're talking about it, it sounds like every RPG player's dream, to actually be right in there. But there is a point here that I've just been thinking about, in the fact that one of the one of the tenets of RPG games, if you like, is the fact that as you progress through the game, you the character that you're playing becomes more powerful. Now, in traditional RPG games, that's simulated or abstracted out through statistics and new power-ups and everything else. But in a virtual reality game, where you actually have to be the person that strikes the critical hit, or deflects the blow, or nails the guy from far away, that requires a certain amount of skill on you as the player, which in some RPG games is not required. I mean, the skill of the player is knowing when to trigger those abilities. And certainly I'm thinking here of perhaps older players, or I don't mean older like me, although I am quite ancient, but I mean, there are guys, I know on the BioWare forums, for instance, there's quite a lot of people on those boards who have been playing these games. They were in their 30s when BioWare and Black Isle first started. And they're all getting on now. And the fact that they like the idea that their characters are the ones that have the skills, they are just directing the choices those characters make. And I'm wondering whether what we're talking about here is a VR. Is when you're talking about those kind of fantasy RPG games, whether the VR world is going to be more restrictive to people that don't have those skills, or perhaps those mobilities through disabilities or something of that nature.
Yeah.
Whereas there's areas of these games that are not going to be coming in.
Well, yeah.
I mean, when you were fighting there, did you actually? I mean, were the opponents that you were fighting, did they require different levels of skill? Did you find the opponents were getting harder as you were going on?
Yes. And also you get better at fighting as you go on, and you also get access to better gear as you carry on as well. But yeah, you're right. Like, to a certain degree, you can't simulate things which require you to actually do them. I mean, you can't. I suppose there's ways around it. I mean, you couldn't make someone good at archery just because they've been leveled up. You couldn't make them good at doing that. But you could influence the flow of the arrow in their favour. So you could make an arrow curve or something if they had the
auto aim. Filthy casuals.
Well, you could just put it all on the tools at your disposal, couldn't you? You could just say, all of the leveling mechanics are all bound to the items you pick up, and you could make your bow quiver when it's at the exact right spot for you to release it. You could assist the player in a different way, or in a UI way. You could show something. Slow the game down.
Slow the game down is a great one.
I suppose. I suppose it's just that, again, it's another example of that complete paradigm shift that players are going to have to get used to if they want to adopt VR. I mean, I think there will always be a room for meat space games, because not everyone's going to jump on the VR road. But what people, just listening to you talking, it became apparent to me that all these things that people have fantasized about VR being, we're now at the place of getting there, and people are going to realise that when they get there, things are actually quite different from how they thought they were going to be. Right. There's a difference between being in VR and thinking, because everyone thinks of VR, and probably the first people a lot of gamers are going to think are, like Call of Duty, Battlefield, that kind of thing you see in Hollywood movies when they have this ridiculous idea of what virtual reality is like. Yeah.
I think so. For me, it really is the case that it's like the thing I've always wanted as like someone who loves fantasy and sci-fi and everything.
Me too.
Although there's nothing, there's everything awesome about existing gaming and stuff like D&D, for example, like that those systems exist. Like this is not necessarily something that's going to replace it, but it's something that presents, I think, the core idea of the experience in the most kind of human way, like the most kind of like natural way of experiencing it. There's no abstraction. I'm holding a shield. It's like playing as a kid. It's like when I was playing in the playground as a kid at school, I wasn't running around pretending to do controls. I was playing around swinging lightsabers. Do you know what I mean? I was
stabbing them.
It's closer to the actual agency of what it's simulating doing, and that is the thing that for me I think is convincing me that it really is that branch off that.
It's like digital LARPing. Kind of.
Yes.
But you're actually doing the thing.
The more you let people put themselves in it, the more you want to put yourself in it. And the more you put yourself in it, the more you get out of it. If you can switch off whilst playing a game, you're not feeling the correct level of agency. You're not engaged enough, and you're not going to get the most out of it. If the game forces you to put your whole self into it, you're going to get the most out of it. That's my take from it anyway. But the feeling of this game of just being in that fantasy setting, as kind of generic as it is in this game, you see everything you've ever really wanted. Just ducking from arrows that are firing at you, like the actual act of kind of just like bending around these corridors so that you can fire an arrow at an orc that's bothering you. I was there's loads of kind of, there's even mining in it. You find a pickaxe at one point and a cave, like a dwarf cave, and you can literally just get gold and stuff that you can use to buy weapons later on. You can buy like a really kick-ass sword and stuff. And yeah, just that. There's a bit when you even have to get past those swinging sort of pendulums of death.
Oh, cool.
And you actually have to crawl on the floor and retrieve some gold and treasure that's in this kind of mess. And there's a little unlucky adventurer whose corpse is sort of. You just have to crawl past this thing, and it's playing. It's role playing in like the strictest sense, because it forces you to be like a little kid again and just actually do the things that your imagination has done. Like
when we talked about these kind of things before we really got this far down the path, one of the things we always talked about was lightsabers and everything else. Yeah. But I remember that one of the things we always identified was the fact that when you are sword fighting, there is resistance. You're hitting objects and swords and stuff. Now that it's here and we're doing it, how does that feel? Because obviously you're not actually hitting anything.
No,
you
have feedback. You have feedback in the terms of the
do you think that's an adequate compensation given within the constraints of what we can do?
It's so much more than just vibration on a Xbox controller.
Yeah.
The only thing you have as feedback through playing it in a meat space game is the visuals and the sound and maybe a little bit of vibrate on your thing. But with this, you have put that killing strike in. When your enemy is exploding into a bunch of loot and bones and dust, your sword is still there, and that's the thing that makes you go, you feel like a proper hero at the end of it. It does exactly what you want it to do. It pumps you up and makes you feel like a fucking hero. And and like later on in the game, it makes you do a kind of what's the word? There's basically waves and waves of enemies in a big kind of coliseum bit. But which allows you to sort of get to a treasured item and stuff. But yeah, it's just crazy. But like I said, it took 8 weeks for one guy to make this, and it's mind blowing. So imagine what it's going to be when anyone with any amount of budget and any size team tries to do a similar thing. Like I was thinking all the way through it, like what's this going to feel like when someone does this with the Witcher universe? When someone takes a universe that's that like unique and like well drawn and kind of, non-generic and so interesting and deep, and like draws that in one that you can just totally actually walk through. That's going to be the biggest thing ever. That will be the best RPG ever when that exists.
Yeah.
Sorry, so is this Vanishing Realms?
Vanishing Realms, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Sorry, I missed it. I don't know if you said what it was at the
I
start. I just launched straight into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Vanishing Realms, and and it's absolutely amazing. But like I said, it's it's going to be like the first of probably millions of games like this.
It looks. Looking on Steam, it looks amazing for 8 weeks' work. It really does, considering everything we told about it.
Yeah, cool.
Vanishing Realms. Go and check it out, kids.
Yeah, $14.99 on Steam at the moment in early access, and it looks like this one's a couple of hours, but they're going to be adding to it.
Lots.
I think there's another episode coming as well, which is kind of going to be included in that.
Is it? is it actually sort of episodic, or is that just the nature of the development?
I think it's the nature of the development. That's the best way for him to do it, I think.
Get it out there.
It's really cool. And the one there's a bunch of other games. I played like 30 games. There's a bunch of other things, but the one that I have to talk about is Hover Junkers, because Hover Junkers is essentially the Quake of VR. It's that first person shooter that is just crack. It's so addictive. It is. So basically, Rob's already played it, so Rob understands it.
I did have a good go at it, but I was shit at it.
You weren't too bad. I thought you got some shots in.
I just felt like I was cowering behind cover and just getting murdered.
Well, so this is the thing, right? Basically, what it does is it gives you the space, which is your room space, and it puts you on this junker, this floating vehicle made of junk. It's set in like a post-apocalyptic, cartoony universe, and there's really small ones, like little hot air balloon ones, or there's huge ones like a kind of old recovered school bus and like an old boat and stuff like that. But they're all just basically different size rooms essentially. And you start off and you've got a few bits of scrap, and you put that you pick those up with a kind of levitator gun, like a kind of magnet gun, and you can drop that cover all around the ship. And you can decide exactly what type of cover, what type of height cover, ones that have got holes in them so you can shoot through them. You can decide exactly where to put them. And
it's not enough of it.
there's crates all over the world. So there's crates all over the map. Sorry, that you have to find these crates as well, and you can upgrade your ship as you go along. Now in that hand as well, you actually control the ship. So you've got like a little holographic representation of that tool on your ship, and when you put that into the hologram, it then becomes the control. So what you do is you point it in the direction you want to go and just pull the trigger, and that's it. And you basically, with the right hand, that's your gun hand. You can switch at any point, so you can carry two guns, but then obviously you sacrifice control of your ship. But it's worth doing because it's really good fun. But basically, this game, it allows you to jet around in a space that makes you feel comfortable, because it's not making you feel sick, because it kind of envelopes you, and you've got something that's kind of close to your vision which isn't moving, and it allows you to move. It's essentially like moving your living room around the world to shoot people.
Yeah.
And it is the best game I've ever played. Like, it is simply the best game I've ever played, because it's cops and robbers. It's like it's like when you're at school and you were trying to shoot your mate. It's exactly that. It's like mucking about behind the bins, and it's exactly that experience. It's hilarious. It's super violent, but because it's all kind of cartoony and soft and hilarious, like it's not kind of violent and disturbing, but it's just kind of hilarious. But yeah,
it does feel like you're shooting. It does feel like you're shooting actual people though, because it does map your movement almost like 1-to-1. Like, so when people are like moving around behind cover, it's quite freaky actually. Like they're actually moving like real people.
Yeah, I know. This
because they are real people.
They are real people, and this is.
I was going to say that you are playing against other people in this game.
This is only multiplayer at the moment. There is a single player about to come, but yeah, I was totally going to mention this. I'm not very good at like traditional first-person shooters, particularly. I'm never someone that sort of wins matches in this, but I'm really good at hover junkers. Like I generally come first in every match. Sometimes come second, sometimes come third, but normally first. I'm really good at this game, but here's the thing: it does make you feel like a murderer. Basically, yeah. After a while, you start to feel a little bit bad about it. And here's the thing: the reason I got good at this game is because I basically watched the other players that were good at it. And here's the thing I learned. So the fun thing about this game is obviously you're darting around cover and you're shooting over it and stuff, just like in the movies, and that's awesome. And that's hilarious amounts of fun. It's awesome. The thing is, though, I noticed that everyone that was dominating the matches wasn't doing that. They were very calmly going up to the other players, taking their time, aiming and firing. And
It's just like The Unforgiven. Just like
Yes.
he talks about at the end of The Unforgiven.
And I even heard the other day that an American cop was on one of the servers, and he was apparently one-shot headshotting everyone because he could fire a gun. And that's the thing. So what I did was I copied these other players, and instead of crouching down and hiding and stuff, like everyone does when they first start playing that game, I very calmly aim and fire. And what I notice is that in general, when you do that and you start getting these huge kill ratios compared to everyone else, like you'll get like 15 and everyone's got like 1 or 2. After about 3 or 4 minutes, people's junkers start coming up to you, and then people get terrified of you because they know that as soon as you get up there, you're going to get them, and it's because they're crouching and they're hiding, and you're just shooting someone who's crouching and hiding, and it is dark. And when someone makes a serious game like that, I'm not sure I would enjoy it as much. If you took the comedy out of that game, it would be a bit murderfest, but to be fair, I'm not sure I can totally say that I might actually fucking enjoy it, because it is a lot of fun. But basically,
As long as you're not the one getting murdered.
as long as you're not the one getting murdered, yes. But yeah, it's crazy. But like, actually, really, it's not the murder that makes this game kind of unique and special to me. The thing that really stood out to me is how, just as how all these other games, these single-player games I've explained, are superhuman. They're very human experiences. This one is a very social experience. So, like you said yourself, Rob, that some people have this idea of VR as being this very kind of isolating, unsocial, antisocial thing, that you're blocking yourself off of the world. But the reality is the exact opposite. You're actually now interacting with people just as you do in the real world. As soon as you're in that same space with them, it's like you're with the person. And very recently I sort of started playing around in-game with the hand gestures. So you can put away one of your guns and just have a hand, and that will do 4 gestures. You've got an open palm, you've got a closed fist, you've got a thumbs up, and you've got a fuck you buddy. And basically you can use all of those in different combinations to basically communicate with other players. So like, for example, yesterday we were flying about this swamp, and the other player was piloting the ship, and I had 2 guns out, so I was shooting with both of them, and I was just keeping a lookout. He's got a radar on his hand tool, so he's checking the radar, but I can see sight of view, so I can see the lantern of one of the players before he sees on his radar. So instead of saying, "There's one over there," through the mic, which everyone can hear and is annoying to people, I literally lean over, tap him on the chest with an open palm, and point to exactly where the thing is. He then banks the ship round, and we then take them out. And like that, for me, was like, that's like a golden kind of moment in gaming, because it's completely human interaction. It's so natural, it's so normal, and it's just been taken into gaming, and like it's so social, it's so human, and like, so again, like the kind of empathy element, how it plays into it. Last night I played for about 2.5 hours. I was just kind of winding down, won a load of matches, having loads of fun, and then enter a server, and I'm burning around, and I go up to take out this player, and he's fiddling around with something. I think he's putting up his cover, and he's not ready, basically. And normally you have to be brutal, and it's just, see you later, dude. But when as my junker slows down and reaches his, he puts up his hands. He surrenders. This guy like puts up his hands, and I've got my gun already, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, dude. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes." And I just burn off, and then he eventually gets his shit together, and he chases after me. We have a shootout, and we're having a great laugh and stuff. And it's just like, it's so social, it's so human. It's, you were just playing together. It's like you guys have just got a warehouse and you're running around doing laser tag. it's like being somewhere with people. It's really, really weird, but it's such a cool thing. It's really
it's like reality.
It's like reality, but with loads of stuff we enjoy doing in the non-reality worlds that we use. It almost feels kind of like the other way, like you've taken that stuff and pulled it into the real world, but that's obviously not what's actually happening. But that's what it feels like, and it's such a cool thing, and it's really this only happens every few like decades, I think, normally for me, but it's really like changed my ideas about what I want from gaming. There's things now that I didn't think I was really anticipating. I thought I was anticipating loads of adventure games and like just kind of more experiential stuff, and suddenly I'm playing all these violent computer games which I didn't really play like a few months ago. Like suddenly that's like, that's what I want to do. I want to shoot stuff, I want to bomb stuff, I want to throw arrows at stuff. Like that wasn't what I was doing like a few months back. And like it's not very often that I have the rule set just kind of changed for me on the fly, and like it's really, really, really cool. And I can't imagine what's around the corner, but like it's only going to be awesome stuff. Like this is year one, and like it just already seems like it's done the job it needs to do. It's good enough. Like it's not perfect, but it's absolutely good enough. Like, and that's all it needed to be. And like, it's amazing. But I'll shut up now and let you guys talk about other games because I've rambled forever.
No, it's fine. I mean, like,
it's very wonderful hearing you talking about it, because it's just like we've been talking about VR for years. You know, I mean, on this podcast we've been talking about it for years, and now it's here.
It's here,
and actually hearing about how people have this. It's kind of exploding. You know, although perhaps in a small bubble, but it's quite a big explosion within that bubble. You know?
We know at least 50,000 Vive units have sold. Just because of Steam, because we know how many people have played certain games. So that's the very lowest estimate we have. But
yes,
it's pretty big numbers for a couple of months. So like I think it's doing pretty well. I think by Christmas time there's going to be a pretty meaty user base out there, especially with the Oculus Rift shipping and stuff as well. You know.
It's kind of weird how the early part of the path to VR was just basically just Oculus Rift just driving the whole thing forward. And now I haven't heard anyone talk about Oculus Rift for ages.
No,
because they haven't come out yet. I haven't got mine.
No, there's I know Morpheus is coming. Is it October as well? I think. Sorry, PSVR is coming in October as well. So
casual VR.
Yeah. I
mean, I don't know. I've heard good things about that. I think that's going to offer something in between.
I think it will.
Some of us have used it, Rob.
Yeah. Well,
I can't talk about it though.
No, not anymore anyway.
But I think it's going to be a good kind of casual like introduction to VR.
No, it'll be a entry level VR, and I think because of the installed user base, it'll kickstart the whole thing into a wider audience. I think it'll have to.
Yeah.
But having said that, with the release of the new Nvidia cards, which are very affordable considering the power that they're able to do. I mean, I was thinking, I'm not going to be able to get on the VR bandwagon anytime soon, because for me, it was a £400 card and the £600 HMD, £700 HMD, whatever it is. So that's like £1,000. It's like, no, that's just not going to happen. But I could possibly double stage it now, because these new cards are coming out are actually for, bang for buck. They're really, really good.
They are excellent. And they very obviously are coming out now because of VR. Like it's so obvious that is their target.
And they've been saying that the performance on regular games is notable and impressive, but on VR games it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a real step up. So you can see where they're kind of getting into that game, aren't they?
It's like Quake again, isn't it? Like people building systems for specific software. It's the same thing.
I love my Voodoo 2.
Yeah. Oh god, those were the days.
This has been the Not Playing Podcast in partnership with notlistening.co.uk, where you can also hear myself and Ian, remember him? talk about movies and TV on the Not Watching Podcast one day. And Adam Ash and Will talk about all manner of funny things on the Not Listening Podcast. You can email us at notplayingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet out or follow us on Twitter at notplayingpod. You can find the show notes for this show at notlistening.co.uk. And if you're listening to us on iTunes, then please do give us a review. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for listening. See ya!
with no